Copyright disclaimer. Under Title 17 U.S.C. Section 107, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing nonprofit, educational, or personal use, tips the balance in favor of fair use. Okay, you guys, this is part 2. And I've already mentioned it before, but I don't necessarily support some of these people, but I'm just going for information if you guys can understand that. So if the information is good and vital to getting out the information about child abuse in Scientology, I'm going to read it. But I'm not wanting to go sit down and have tea with Hutchinson or Chris Shelton, just to say that. That's all. So again, it's ashighness.blog. Scientology children and auditing, religious ritual or abuse. Well, ritual abuse. You know what? I actually put that in the video, so I was thinking ritual abuse. It is a form of ritual abuse, honestly. Just go read into that one if you really want to have a dark night of the soul. Posted on August 24th, 2021 by Stephanie Hutchinson. Scientology declared that auditing is its principal religious practice. It seems like she was on the way to learning some stuff, you know what I mean? Church of Scientology International, 6331 Hollywood Boulevard. The principal religious practices in Scientology are auditing and training, which consist of a gradient scale of religious services addressing the spirit. The purpose of auditing is to unburden man of past painful experiences and to orient him as a spiritual being. Auditing results in an increase in spiritual awareness and ability. Ultimately, the person achieves certainty of himself as a spirit and freedom from unwanted burdens. At this point, he also is certain of immortality. Training also increases spiritual awareness and ability for the individual and enables a person to utilize the religious technologies of Scientology to improve conditions with himself and others. Sound like a religion to you? I'm going to do a comparison of that as well. Scientology is a very exact faith with a fundamental doctrine of the religion is that its religious services must be orthodox. This doctrine holds that spiritual salvation can be attained if and only if the path to salvation outlined in the Scripture's religious technology is followed without deviation. This path starts with the applied religious philosophy expounded in Dianetics, the modern science of mental health. Auditing in all its forms is a capstone for all Scientology's religious claims. Without it, one cannot attest to clear. One cannot move ahead in courses or up the bridge. That's why all these children, most of them are called pre-clears, if they go up the bridge. And then you've got the other side of it, which I think is the auditing. I got to check into that. It's 2 tiers, just like kind of like a pyramid in a way. Scientology insists only auditing provides a precise path by which any individual may walk an exact route to higher states of spiritual awareness. It would seem that any individual may not only walk the route, but also guide others along the way to enlightenment. Children as young as 9. Children as young as 9. It's actually younger, to be honest, because just go to Mace Kingsley. Children as young as 9 can enroll in auditing training courses. In the course room, they are treated no differently In the course room, they are treated no differently than their adult counterparts. After all, it is a Thetan being trained, not a child. Check it out, FBI. Check it out, Homeland Security, Child Protective Services, Department of Education, Immigration and Naturalization Services, lawyers, child advocacy groups, LGBTQ. You should be aware of the hatred toward gays in Scientology as well. While minors may make up only a small percentage, lies. That's a lie right there. I don't know if she was knowing it, but there's a lot of child auditors. They do exist. Well, you know who was talking in her ear. From what I've heard, I venture to say that at least 50%, if not 90% of the auditors at FLAG are children. Facts. They even have it in their videos. That's how dumb they are. Chris Shelton, former Scientologist. Again, you guys, I don't want to have tea with him, but let's just go with the information that's being provided. And host of the Sensibly Speaking podcast, recalled 2 young girls, 14 and 15. It's always the teenagers, you notice that? It's to try to hide the young ones. Taking high-level auditors training. These teens would be expected to know the material and would be prepped to handle any issue that may arise during auditing. Be prepped to handle any issue that may arise during auditing. Can you say parentification? Can you say potential problem for pedophilia to start? Come on. Including any potential sexually explicit material. Shelton noted that rather than be apprehensive over the idea of young teen girls being trained in such, and boys, in such mature, inappropriate subject matter, the adults were impressed and pleased by such precociousness. The adults were impressed and pleased by such precociousness. They're parasiting off the children. You guys understand that? I'm tired of hearing excuses. I'm done with it. And again, I don't want to keep going on. You guys know my thoughts. Both Chris Shelton and Mike Rinder confirmed that minors who are auditors in training are subjected to one of the most grueling and explicit Scientology practices, the Johannesburg security check. I read that on here somewhere. You guys can go, just look on my channel, go to the little search bar. Be great to do a reenactment of that, wouldn't it? Show people what's really going on. Have you ever raped anyone? These are children asking the questions, or it could be an adult auditor asking a child these questions. Complete boundary breaking, like there's no boundaries. And that's also, too, what they destruct is the whole family. It's really Brave New World, you know. I told you guys. Go check out Brave New World. Have you ever been involved in an abortion? Have you assisted in any abortion? You know, because children do that, right? Go look at L. Ron Hubbard's obsession with it. Well, the short story he was telling everyone else was that he was against it. He was into it. Moloch, anyone? Have you ever committed adultery? You know, because children do that, right? Have you ever practiced homosexuality? Have you ever had intercourse with a member of your family? That's incest. And it's no mistake, you guys. Let's see how many of these questions here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Very satanic questions. Just go look up satanic ritual abuse, if you got the stomach for it. Have you ever consistently made a practice of sexual perversion? Because you know children do that, right? Sickening. The Joburg Sec Check is an extreme example. However, every auditor, minor or adult, has the very real potential of being exposed to such themes in everyday auditing as well, and the schools that they were going to. I mean, did you guys listen to what I read yesterday? They had a herpes outbreak at the school. I mean, that is really bad. That's really bad. And all the morons that want to try to cover it up will say, oh yeah, those children were promiscuous. You see, that it's just sick. It's sick. Mike Rinder has written about this issue in his blog, where he writes, you guys know, think about it for a minute. A 9-year-old girl could right now be sitting down with a 50-year-old man asking him about sodomy or sexual perversions. Yeah, it's happening now. LAPD's fine with it. Clearwater PD's fine with it. Homeland Security's fine with it. FBI's fine with it. Government officials are fine with it. Immigration Naturalization Services fine with it. At what point does a religious practice become obscenity and thus qualify as abuse? That's why he wrote that nasty letter to, or email to Miriam, huh? You guys know. It is a religious right or right, R-I-G-H-T, for a preteen. You see how they always try to get the teenager in there? I've been telling you guys. I've been telling you. I've been saying that. It's like to kind of code it and make it not so bad. For a preteen. A preteen is a child. Just so everybody's clear on what a preteen is. Child. Or teenager. To be placed in charge of what is essentially a therapy session. Yeah, at the Harrison Hotel, huh? And all the other hotels. Setting aside the X-rated material for a moment, Chris Shelton pointed out that the auditor is 100% responsible for what goes on in the course room. It's not like, why are they trying to say it's a course room? I mean, maybe that's what they call it, but it's a small little room where if you're getting auditing, you're not allowed to leave. And that's also including children, which is a really strong mind control technique. Just go look it up. I learned about this when I was in the military. I never went through that, but it's where I started learning about it. A pre-clear, like a child, could begin climbing the walls, screaming, crying, dancing, or experience a psychotic break. Oh, like happened to Lisa McPherson, huh? Or Lori Mills? Is that her first name? You know, the Mills lady? And whoever is auditing at the time, to include a child, is held 100% responsible. Parentification. Can a minor truly consent to such an adult situation? Is there any circumstance, religious or otherwise, wherein placing such adult matters upon the shoulders of a child is healthy or appropriate? Well, apparently the judges in the most recent child sexual abuse case, the Jane Does, thought this kind of stuff is fine, even though it's breaking laws. Dismiss the lawsuit. Isn't that wonderful? There is no possible spiritual necessity or justification for this. Rather, the potential for mental trauma is real when one places such a burden upon the shoulders of... See? Oh, you guys are going to start snapping. Like they don't know what the word child is, right? Such a burden upon the shoulders of an adolescent. Or let's just be more realistic. I'm going to interject here because somebody needs to. Places such a burden upon the shoulders of a child. You see what they're doing? Go look up hebophilia and you guys will know what I'm talking about. You'll love that one. Go look it up. Seen in this light, auditing very real potential for severe psychological injury to those under the age of 18. You know, children. Vastly outweighs an imagined spiritual advancement. Oh, one of their new codes is, I'm going to try to stop interrupting. One of their new codes is, I was listening and watching a law and crime video regarding child abuse. It was one of my recommendeds. And it was good at first. Like, some of the stuff on law and crime gets on my nerves. And I don't think it's just like the people that run that channel, no offense. But you get the like pedo, what do you call them? The pedo like enforcers, and they try to make it that it's okay. They called a little girl, you know what they called her? They called her a little woman. And everybody in the comments just flipped out, which they should. Okay, I'll try to stop interrupting everything. During an auditing session, if the scenario Mike Rinder mentioned plays out, for example, when held against the legal standards, is it a religious or abusive event? What? Oh, you guys, I don't want to start snapping. I have to read this again. During an auditing session, if the scenario Mike Rinder mentioned plays out, for example, when held against the legal standards, all this circle talk, is it a religious or abusive event? Is he trying to minimize it? Because you guys know, what constitutes abuse. Okay, I'll read it. The standard of what is harmful to minors may differ from the standard applied to adults. Harmful materials for minors include any communication. Where did he get this from? I want to know where this comes from. Consisting of nudity, sex, or, I don't want to read that appeals to the prurient interest of minors. 2, is patently offensive to prevailing standards in the adult community with respect to what is suitable material for minors. 3, and lacks serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value for minors. Where did we get this from? You can't just be throwing stuff out there and not saying where you cited it from. Sounds like gobbledygook. Florida further defines B. Child abuse means 1. Intentional infliction of physical or mental injury upon a child. Okay, I'm going to pause. I'll be right back. Okay, I had to make sure where that came from. These are the 2024 Florida statutes. I don't have the number, but you guys can look it up. The link's in there. I don't like to be reading things without citing them. 1. Intentional infliction of physical or mental injury upon a child. Yeah, all the judges seem to think it's fine. And I guess they don't know how to follow laws. 2. An intentional act that could reasonably be expected to result in physical or mental injury to a child. Well, just check out Serge Oblinsky. Or, what was it, Daniel Montalvo, who lost his finger? Does that count, judges? Does losing a finger count as a physical injury? Or losing an arm? Does that count? 3. Active encouragement of any person to commit an act that results or could reasonably be expected to result in physical or mental injury to a child. That's been well documented. But of course, the judges don't seem to understand. They don't follow the statutes. They don't know how to do it. D. Mental injury. Like the whole entire book that was written by Nathan Rich, which I'm going to read more from today. D. Mental injury means injury to the intellectual or psychological capacity of a child as evidenced by a discernible and substantial impairment in the ability of the child to function within the normal range of performance and behavior is supported by expert testimony. Yeah, we don't have enough evidence of that with all the children coming out of Scientology. Unreal. Wonder how many of those LAPD cops are pushing their pant legs up And you don't have to worry about the lower levels, but the higher levels, those are the fixers. Let's go check out John Wedger. Given the potential for a minor in Scientology to be faced with detailed sexually explicit material, whether as an auditor or while being audited, the question exists: at what point does a session become obscene or even pornographic in nature? Who is this quoting this? Is this Rinder or Shelton? For a Scientologist, it is not enough to confess that one has M'd. You guys know what the M word is. As noted in the Sun's article about Serge Gill, Sun Online has also spoken to a total of 5 former members of Scientology. Oh, 5? Wow. Way to really get it out there. Who made their own allegations, including, it was corroborated, by the way. Cops don't seem to get that part. Including being forced to undergo sexually explicit confessionals about rape and M as children. Studies over the past decade link multiple mental health challenges for children exposed to sexually inappropriate obscene material. Maybe this is Hutchinson writing this. So she should be a little more clear where she's quoting from, because it's kind of all over the place, but it's good anyways. It really is. Exposure or overexposure can also lead to some symptoms associated with depression and ADHD symptoms associated with bipolar disorder or suicidal ideation. We'll just look up all the children that committed suicide in Scientology. I guess authorities are not interested in that. It is because of the potential risk for such mental injury to children that harmful to minors laws were enacted. Vitally important to this discussion is to understand that sexual abuse is not limited to physical contact. That's a good point. I don't remember who I was listening to. I'm trying to remember. One of the ex-Scientologists had brought up, they were talking about things that they were going through, like commentary about, oh, you're so sexy, or are you 2D flowing me, when they're children, and things like that. That's a type of sexual abuse. I can't think of what it's called right now, but it's a type. Non-contact sexual abuse. Maybe there's my answer. Not all sexual abuse fits neatly into common legal or psychological definitions. For instance, parents who have sex in front of their children. Yeah, you know what? Ollie Matthews talked a lot about that with his family. It was sick. I forget what it's called, but there's a few different, you got the non-contact, but there's a few different titles for it. It's really sick stuff. Who make sexually inappropriate comments, like telling children they're 2D flowing, or, telling a child that they're sexy, or it's inappropriate. Inappropriate comments to their children are engaging in sexual abuse, yes. By this definition, then, verbal discourse between auditor and pre-clear. The pre-clears are children, and sometimes the auditors are children. When one is a minor during a session that devolves into the descriptive and sexually inappropriate is, in fact, sexual abuse. There can be no doubt that minors in an auditing session can and do become exposed to explicit sexual discussion with adults. With this in mind, it's right in the auditing questions. Those should be thrown out of the window. The question arises, in what other setting would such conversations be considered inappropriate, healthy, or acceptable? It also reminds me, I just have to add in, all the accounts that we've heard about the cadets in the cadet orgs, or even sometimes at the Delphi schools, in these Scientology schools, where they would make the children take their pants down to get whipped, or that really horrible account Nathan Rich gave in his book. That's why I had to take a bit of a break. That's like sexual sadism. It's really, really sick. And the Catholic nuns and priests that were child abusers did these things in those orphanages in Ireland and sometimes in Britain. Really, really sick. Wally Hanks was into that. Obscenity laws qualify the material as being for prurient use. Scientology insists the reason for detailed, explicit discussion is for confidential spiritual counseling. Hold on, you guys. I gotta look up prurient. Okay, you guys, I looked it up. Just the basic Oxford language definition. Prurient, having or encouraging an excessive interest in sexual matters. Okay, I had to look it up. Can Scientology prove that the documentation and storage of their auditing sessions are truly bound by the seal of privacy? Part 1 of the series can be found here. In Part 3, Clergy, Pentient Privilege, the Conundrum of Mandated Reporting. So I'll be reading that one next. I will leave a link in the description box. Like and subscribe if you choose. Otherwise, have an amazing day or night wherever you are. Peace.